Now, who's ready for some neurological stimulation?
Art 101 with Mr. Burger.
Hello again, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Art 101 with me, Mr. Burger. I'm a professional artist and master educator attempting to bring you the best in art historical content. If you like this one or others in the series, please make sure you give it a like, a share, a subscribe, see the other things I got to offer, and that would be really fantastic. Thank you.
Why?
Friends, what do I know? I color for a living. But I do know a little bit about the leadership in ancient Rome. And today, what I would love to do is to dive into the subject matter of a illustrated history of the leadership in ancient Rome. After the Etruscan rule, Rome was declared a republic ran by an annually elected Senate beginning in 509 BC. Rome expanded its territory, but it was burnt to the ground by the invading Gauls in 390. The army was destroyed and the citizens fled, but they would return and rebuild their city, but this time with a fortified wall that was 12 feet thick and 24 feet high. This investment would give them 800 years or so of protection. Smaller cities would be united underneath this Roman rule. The Mycenaean government would ask Rome to help them out in a war against the Carthaginians. This would become the First Punic War in 264. Rome would take Sicily, but the Second Punic War was looming. Carthage retained their young commander Hannibal, who marched over the Alps and into Italy with a fleet of 37 elephants. He pummeled Roman cities, but could not take the city itself. With Hannibal in Rome, the Romans would take their holdings in Spain for their own, and to help motivate Hannibal to go on back home, the Romans fought a scorched earth defense. This took all of Hannibal's resources, but it also took Roman resources. In the final battle, Hannibal would accept a peace treaty. Side note, now some say that historians have blown Hannibal up to be a much better leader than he actually was because beating an okay guy isn't that great, but beating this giant monster really makes your leadership and army look over the top.
No respect, no honor. There is no honor among thieves in the first place.
With this peace treaty, the Romans would acquire the western boundary of the Mediterranean Sea and began moving east. Soon all of Macedonia and Greece was under the Roman rule. Following the Punic Wars, many Greeks were taken as slaves by the Romans, and the Greek influence on Roman culture was huge, to say the least. Without these slaves, much of their achievements would not have been practically learned. With swarms of people moving into Rome, building their empire was a lot easier. Now, many rulers would come before Julius Caesar. However, very few others were as well known from ancient Roman history as he is. The German term Kaiser and the Russian term Tsar both are rooted in the name Caesar. He is said to have been a tall man with dark, piercing eyes. He had a passion for history, and he actively recorded his personal history throughout his entire life. He was vain yet charming, and most do not know that he was also an epileptic. He was a true lover of the arts and should be considered Rome's leadership version of the Renaissance man. He climbed the ranks of leadership in Roman military and government offices. He was a member of the first Triumvirate of unofficial power. These three men were allied to control Rome: Pompey Magnus, Marcus Crassus, and Julius Caesar. The first triumvirate ended with the death of Crassus in 53 BC. The Senate was really behind Pompey becoming Rome's leader. Pompey was a great rival to Caesar, and he even married his daughter. This marriage did mend some tension, but not for too long. Caesar himself started a civil war that took control of Rome. But to have total power, he had to deal with his former ally, Pompey. Now, Pompey and his army would retreat to Greece and then to Egypt for fear of Caesar. but he was killed once he got on shore in Egypt. Julius Caesar himself would go to Egypt to look for Pompey, but instead of finding Pompey, he would find Cleopatra VII, the young ruler of Egypt. He was very much smitten by this very intelligent young ruler, who he would end up having a child with.
Cool it, caterpillar breath!
Now he would go back to Rome and he was named director, but he acted like he was the king. From Alexandria, Egypt, he would bring lots of ideas that would really reshape Roman culture and tradition, like reforming the calendar, forming new colonies, adjusting the operation of the Senate, revising the currency system, along with many other civic and infrastructure projects. With this newfound peace in Rome, the Senate feared that Caesar would want more than just a title, but to actually become a king, so they would have him killed. On the Ides of March 15th of 44 BC, Caesar was stabbed to death. Soon the Senate would have the power officially divided up into a second triumvirate, 3 leaders that were kind of in rule of different sections of the country. Those 3 leaders were Mark Antony, Marcus Lepidus, and Octavian. This second triumvirate would last for 10 years, but eventually the empire would be divided in half. The west being controlled by Octavian, and the east being controlled by Mark Antony. Now, Antony had served militarily underneath Julius Caesar in Egypt, and he was very popular with his men, and Octavian definitely had some problems with that. In Egypt, Antony himself became very smitten with the shrewd ruler Cleopatra VII, just as his predecessor Julius Caesar had. And like Julius Caesar, he actually had children with Cleopatra. As this relationship developed between Cleopatra and Mark Antony, that raised a huge flag with Octavian because, number one, Octavian tried to present himself as this moral family guy that he actually wasn't, but that's how he tried to portray himself. Number 2, back home, Mark Antony had a wife, and his wife was Octavia, who was Octavian's sister. This was humiliating for Octavia, as well as the entire family. The offended Octavian began to plan his takeover of the entire nation. Antony had his own plans, moving his army, navy, and Cleopatra's to the north to do battle. Didn't take too long and Antony's army began to desert him, and he had no choice but to flee back to Egypt, where he and Cleopatra both committed suicide in 30 BC.
This is so f***ing stupid.
In 27 BC, all of the land holdings were restored underneath the rule of Octavian, who would change his name to Augustus, meaning the Great One, and he would take on the role of the first emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. Augustus would lead for over 40 years, and after Augustus was a long line of rulers: Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, Nero, Vespasian, Titus, Domitian, Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antonius Pius, Marcus Aurelius, Commodus, Severus, Caracalla, Elagabalus, Alexander Servus, and some 30 more rulers that were killed or assassinated in a 50-year span. By 200 AD, Rome was plagued by attacking barbarians, otherwise known as the Germans and Scandinavians, and civil fighting. Then in 284 AD, Diocletian became the emperor of Rome. He then assigned his friend Maximilian to help rule and maintain control of this very unstable empire. These two retired together and allowed the groomed leaders of Constantius I and Galerius to take control of the empire. Constantius I was followed by Constantine I, who would reunite the empire under a single emperor in 312. The following year, he would grant religious freedoms to all, including the Christians, for the very first time. Upon his death, the empire would be again divided into 3 parts by Constantine's 3 sons: Constantine II, Constantius II, and Constans I. Constantius II came out as the ruler, but he would share power with his cousin Julian. Julian was succeeded by Jovian, Valentinian I in Valens, Gratian, and then Theodosius. Now Theodosius, or Theodosius the Great, would reunite the empire once again for the last time. At the time of his death in 395, he would give the empire to his two sons, Arcadius and Honorius. The winter of 406 was pretty brutal. It was so cold that the Mains and Rhine rivers would freeze solid, allowing these northern barbarians to cross and invade Rome. Rome was sacked in 410 and for the first time were under the rule of the barbarians. This, along with the Huns of Central Asia that were moving into Europe, became a major issue for the really struggling empire. In 476, the history books will tell you that the Roman Empire was officially done for. But there is no doubt that some minor activity was still going on under the name of the Roman Empire.
Oh, son of a...
Now, with some of these Roman leaders, we can dive way deeply into their story. The stories of Caligula and Nero as bloodthirsty psychopaths are very real, and if you'd like to hear more about those, please leave me a comment down below and we'll see what we can do about maybe making a video about those folks. If we really want to get into the mind of a leader, we got to talk to a leader. And I can't think of somebody who has the qualities of leadership and mental toughness and strength any more than a fellow Iowan, Dan Gable. He was a NCAA champion, only lost one match his entire career, an Olympic champion, a person that took the helm of the Iowa Hawkeyes wrestling team and led them to an unprecedented number of national championships as a wrestling coach. And so I want to get a little bit of wisdom from none other than a one-of-a-kind leader, Dan Gable.
Dan Gable, Olympic wrestling champion, championship coach, family guy reaching out. Really appreciate you reaching out to me, a wrestler and a wrestling coach, that put together a string of victories individually and coaching-wise that holds many records for domination and wins. It didn't happen easy. Nothing worthwhile happens that way. It takes unbelievable hard work, plus very smart work in a combination to have the best chance to make standalone accomplishments. There is always a price that has to be paid to reach the top. Well worth it. But the discipline needed is unique to make it to the top. The motivation, yes, comes from within, but even more because of the people you love that are with you, on earth and in heaven. It takes lots of love and passion to stay on the right track, even to come back when you slip off. Stay the course.
Coach Gable, thank you for giving us some insights into leadership and perseverance and what it takes to succeed. Those things aren't just strictly for athletics. Those things cross over to skill development, and regardless of the skill, including development of the skill in art. Thank you very much for watching this one. We'll see you next time.
If you're watching this, that means I'm already dead.